Hello and welcome to the lecture of International Business Environment. In this lecture, we will going to have a discussion on the technology transfer, which is unit 8 of block 2. So yes, in block 2, we will discussing about the globalization processes and forces, in which the last discussion is about the technological transfers. Now topics we will be going to be covered are introduction, rationales of technology transfers, recent trends and current issues, transfer of technology, FDI, TNCs, organizational innovation and management practices, vital components of contracts, intellectual property rights. Now, as we were already started in the previous session, which is basically discussing about the concept of TNC, that is transnational corporation, and in that TNC chapter we started at one point that TNC is one of a major factor of having a technology or transfer of technology. So when we were discussing about transfer of technology means transferring of physical goods to one country to another country. When it's a physical goods, what exactly comprises with the physical good? Physical goods consist of all the capital goods and all the text of knowledge. That means it's basically, if we talk about technology, अगर हम technology की बात करते हैं, तो technology अपने आप में एक physical goods के बारे में बताती है कि yes, it's a physical goods, एक tangible function है इसका, and yes at the same time इसमें बहुत सारी knowledge होती है, एक it's maybe an innovative knowledge or maybe it's a modified knowledge, but yes, it having a certain knowledge with it. So that is why it's a transferring of a physical goods. Transfer basically applies that when one good is shifted to another country, and this basic concept we will going to have a discussion on all the recent trends and issues of transfer of technology. And they were basically discussing about that how we can generate the more equity, what kind of a technology can be transferred, how we can generate a good contract related to the transfer of technology. That's all comes into this. Now, the very first is, what is transfer technology or technology transfer? Technology transfer is basically a process of sharing a skill, knowledge, technology, method of manufacturing, sample of manufacturing, facilities amongst the government and other institutions to ensure that scientific and technological development are accessible to the wider range of a user, who can then further develop and explore the technology into the new product, process, application, material and service. अगर मैं टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफर की बात कर रही हूँ, तो टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफर एक प्रोसेस है जिसके थ्रू आप एक स्किल को, एक नॉलेज को, टेक्नोलॉजी को, एक मेथड, प्रोडक्शन मेथड या मैन्युफैक्चरिंग मेथड को, या किसी भी तरीके की साइंटिफिक रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट्स को आप शेयर कर सकते हो. मतलब ये एक प्रोसेस है जिसके थ्रू हम लोग एक इन कॉन्सेप्ट्स की शेयरिंग में आते हैं कि न्यू प्रोडक्ट कैसे होगा, क्या एक मॉडिफिकेशंस होगी, किस तरीके का मटेरियल यूज हुआ है, कैसे इसका पूरा प्रोसीजर बना है, इसको बनाने का प्रोसेस क्या है, कैसे इसको और इम्प्रूव कर सकते हैं, इसके साथ और बेटर सर्विसेज क्या देनी है, ये सब टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफर के अंदर आता है. When we talk about the rationales of technology of transfer, rationale of technology transfer discussing about what are those factors which makes the technology transfers. The very first is the fulfill of the mission. Yes, technology is required in nowadays. आज की अगर हम टुडे सिनेरियो की बात करें तो बहुत ज्यादा टेक्नोलॉजिकल डेवलपमेंट होती है, और इस टेक्नोलॉजिकल डेवलपमेंट के साथ हर बार एक नया प्रोडक्ट मार्केट के अंदर इंट्रोड्यूस होता है विच हैव अ कैपेबिलिटी टू गैदर अ मार्केट शेयर. सो उस मार्केट शेयर को कैप्चर करने के लिए, उसे और बेटर डेवलप करने के लिए वी रिक्वायर टेक्नोलॉजी. तो टेक्नोलॉजी एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, एक कंट्री के ऑब्जेक्टिव्स को फुलफिल करती है. इट्स वन ऑफ अ रिक्वायर्ड थिंग. So that is what's a development of intellectual property and promotions of new ventures. Another rational factor is that it is personal motivation. Yes, technology can be invented, it could be innovated also. So एक invention and innovation उसके अंदर हो सकती हैं. So it is what related to what motive a particular country have or a particular company have और किस motive से वो उस technology की introduction कर रही है. Third is the attract a private capitals. It is what basically dealing to have a private capital in it. आप जब किसी भी तरीके की टेक्नोलॉजी इंप्रूवमेंट्स की बात करते हो या वो जब टेक्नोलॉजी एक कंट्री से दूसरे एरिया कंट्री में जाके शिफ्ट हो रही है, इन दैट केस यू रिक्वायर्ड सर्टेन काइंड ऑफ process in it. You must have certain capital for it. So that's all comes into attract a private capital. Then another thing which is considered in it, that is levels of technology transfer. When we talk about levels, so the very first level of technology transfer is कि it have a set of knowledge. Obviously एक motives के साथ, और अगर हम एक टेक्नोलॉजी की बात करते हैं तो उस टेक्नोलॉजी के पीछे एक नॉलेज थी, जिस नॉलेज से उस टेक्नोलॉजी को क्रिएट किया गया और उस नॉलेज से उस टेक्नोलॉजी की इनोवेशंस हुई. सो द वेरी फर्स्ट एंड द कोर लेवल ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफर इज अ ट्रांसफर ऑफ नॉलेज. द नॉलेज इज ट्रांसफर्ड. आफ्टर दैट यस देयर मस्ट बी एन अ प्रोडक्शन. अब अगर एक तरीके की नॉलेज ट्रांसफर होती है तो ऑटोमेटिकली उस नॉलेज से रिलेट करते हुए एन नंबर ऑफ एक्सपेरिमेंट्स कंडक्ट होते हैं. जिस एन नंबर ऑफ एक्सपेरिमेंट्स दे मे बी दी लेवल ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफर कि आप एक प्रोडक्शन लेवल की टेक्नोलॉजी भी जो है वो ट्रांसफर कर रहे हो. इससे पहले आप एक सिर्फ नॉलेज शेयर कर रहे थे, नॉलेज को ट्रांसफर कर रहे थे. यहाँ पर दिस इज अ शेयरिंग और अ ट्रांसफर ऑफ अ प्रोडक्शन ऑफ अ प्रोडक्ट. The third kind of transfer of technology is basically comes into the very much related to technology or technical products. यानी कि जब किसी तरीके का टेक्निकल प्रोडक्ट ही ट्रांसफर हो रहा है तो दैट्स कम इनटू लेवल ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजिकल ट्रांसफर. थर्ड लेवल कि जो पूरा का पूरा मार्केट में जो प्रोडक्ट आया है वो एक टेक्नोलॉजी अपने आप में एक एडवांसमेंट और एक टेक्नोलॉजी है. देन दी फोर्थ वन इज इट इज व्हाट हैविंग दी intellectual transfers. That is what it is basically discussing about technology which owned by the firm with necessary property protection. So that's comes into different levels जिसके through technologies जो है transfers हो सकती हैं. Then another is what are the cost of technology transfer. जब हम cost of technology transfer की बात करते हैं, so the very first cost is direct or indirect. These are the two main costs which are considered in the business or in the operations. Operations की proper working के लिए हम ये दो costs को count करते हैं, direct cost और indirect cost. Direct costs are which are directly related to your technology, and obviously indirect cost comes into the indirect expenditures which are incurred by a particular firm to transfer that technology. If we talk about these costs, direct costs mainly they consist of all technical fees or management fee, material was used in it. So ये सब direct cost के अंदर आ जाते हैं. And indirect cost में the skills you put down, the effort you put down, so that's all comes into the direct cost and indirect cost. Having after the introduction of that, what are the costs used in it? Direct. If we talk about direct cost is basically consisting of all that fee required, material required in or at the same time at the time of technology transferring, what are technology fees are required. These all comes into the direct cost. Whereas the indirect cost of all the efforts and skills required that for particular technology transfers. Now, what are the reasons behind the purchasing of technology or technology transfers actually comes into a picture? Now, what are those reasons? The very first reason is innovation or innovating a new process. When there was an innovation, yes, it is adopted by everyone because it's something new which are probably have a certain benefits for the organization, for the society, for the nation, for the whole world. So that is why एक innovation ऐसा concept है, एक ऐसा reason है जिसकी वजह से technology transfers होती हैं. So that is first. The second reason for that is that it would be for the convenience to buy the most modern technology from the owner. It is what buying it. When one nation is not fulfilled as in a technology advancement concept, अगर technology advancement slow होए या कम होती हैं, so in that case it help us to be in that. So technology transfer मदद करती है उस particular nation को to be in the technology और technology को use करने में, technology को adopt करने में. Then another reason is enabling a company to earn an additional income. Yes, it's one of a source of income. अगर maximum technologies एक country या एक economy के अंदर transfer होंगी, so automatically उससे ये होगा कि there is a betterment of that particular economy, or because purchasing power, or they have an opportunity to purchase something new, so that will lead to have additional income also. Then allowing to share the intellectual properties and obtain the royalties. Yes, that will having a share of an intellectual properties. आप एक intellectual property में invest कर रहे हो, technologies आ रही हैं, so that will lead to this thing. और yes, इससे loyalty भी improve होती है. And yes, technological development. Ultimately इससे एक nation जो है technologically improve होता है, technologically developed होता है. If we talk about technology market is basically a seller market. That is those market in which the technology are created, it's innovated, or it's invented. So in that terms, they sell it to the sellers market. The main concept is what, or we can say that the TNC is one of the process through which the technology may transfer, or technology market was arises. And yes, at the same time, TNC basically have a control on it. अगर वो चाहे तो कम से कम technologies transfer करे, but again it's a one of a thing which is betterment for everyone. So effective purchase of technology can be done only by the buyers known about that particular technology, that what is actually technology is, how it's going to be improved, how it's actually help, what are those scope to use it. So this all comes into the technological market. What are those recent trends and current issues in technology transfer? If we talk about recent trends, so in recent trends, the very is that it increasing globalized. That is, with the help of technology transfer, yes, there is a standard of improvement in the standard of living. There will be improvement, or there is a technology advancement in the economy. There is the betterment or the growth or opportunity with the nation. But yes, at the same time, they having that increasing globalized in terms of they make the world as in a one, and they try to be as in a one market and one whole scenario in which the technology is similar, because they were using same kind of technology, and with the help of technology transfer, this is one of a benefit which is arising. Then science and technology policy is prescribed as having an effective and consequences for the international trade. They were basically discussing that science and technology having a one of the biggest contribution of having a good technology transfer. As much as good science and technology in one particular country, automatically the advancement is high and technology transfer is high. The another recent trend is technology is improving the service sector. Yes, service sector is somewhere having a tangibilities with the help of technology. They have the one source through which they can retain their service for a particular time period. But as in a service is deal with the perishability, so they may possible with the help of technology. So it is used very much in the service industry. Then technology is act as a prime factor in creating a competitive advantage. With the technology transfer and with the betterment of that particular nation, automatically there was a more competitive also, because when the different countries are performing in a one nation, yes, they were having a new technology, they introducing that technology in one particular nation, but at the same time they're bringing out a competitive scenario. Nowadays, in fact, the companies are basically fighting for the technology basis. That means feature they have in their offerings, in their products, and this all are introduced with the help of technology and with the help of a certain knowledge. So that's comes into technology is act as a primary factor. And yes, at the same time, the technology basically seeks increased governmental protection also for the intellectual property. It is one of the things that when we state that technology have a certain knowledge with it, my contribution of that intangible concept. So in that case, we required certain laws and certain regulations to protect it, and yes, having a protection and security for that knowledge, that it never be used in the illegal manner. So that's comes into the recent trends and current issues. Another is organization, innovation and management practices. So if we talk about organization, innovations and management practices, the very first is production layouts needs to be restructured, and yes, inventory have to be reduced to the minimum level. This is all what usage of technology in the organization, and how management practices bring out a better use of technology in particular company. So that will lead to, with the help of technology, we can manage our production, we can manage our delivery or distribution part, that is to have a just in time and have an effective time management, will lead to making the perfect standardization, leads to the zero defect product, which makes more qualitative product. And yes, at the same time, the skills in craft was there, and worker may improve their learnings, may improve their skills to how to use this technology and how to be efficient in that particular technology. So that comes into organization, innovation and management practices. These all are basically benefits which are introduced by the technology. Now, what is technology collaboration agreement? When we talk about the agreement, this agreement is basically stating that how we will going to use our technology in a right manner. What are those rules and regulations which are required? Basically, this agreement is done with the TNC when they entered into any kind of transfer of technology. They have to sign this kind of an agreement that how much technology is going to be transferred, at what price it's going to be transferred, and it may not probably have any effect or negative effect for the environment and for the nation of that particular economy. So these all are details which are submitted in this agreement regarding the technologies, which shows that how in a very proper manner technology going to be transferred. So that's come into technology collaboration agreement. It is, yes, a legal agreement which is enforceable by court of law. Now, what are those vital components of a contract? एक contract के vital components कौन से हैं? Which is required because it's in a contract. अगर हम technology agreements की बात करते हैं तो वो एक contract है, तो उसमें कौन सी ऐसे components और elements हैं which are required? The very first is the patent and secret technologies. The technology must be there and it should be patent. ट्रेडमार्क होना चाहिए कंपनी के पास, ब्रांड नेम होना चाहिए, established research and development is the one component. May loyalty management and technical fee was required. Particular duration, in which duration that technology is basically formed and how it's going to be transferred, how it's going to be used. Then performance and guarantees must be there. Design conferences must be there. Restrictive practices is required. If we enter into any kind of agreement, it is there to have to control laws, or this practices are there to control activities at a technology transferring. And yes, at the same time, what is latest technology was used in the market and how it is going to be utilized in the other sectors. Technical assistance, that's how, what kind of technical help and technical training was provided. And yes, we required at the end a technical labor force. We must have a technical labor force also. So these all comes into the components of that particular contract. Then another is intellectual property right. Intellectual property right is basically is a right to have a control or have a full ownership on all your concepts which are related to the certain intangibilities part. When any kind of knowledge, when any kind of we can say tech knowledge comes or commercialized, so in that case we use intellectual property right. जब एक product जो कि mainly related होता है service और एक knowledge से, तो उसको एक control में लाना और आपकी एक ownership को define करने के लिए commercialize होने से पहले हम intellectual property right का use करते हैं. So intellectual property right may have with it copyrights, trademarks, patent, trade secrets. That's all comes into the intellectual property right. So that is why intellectual property is a legal property right over the creation of a mind. यानी कि आपने अगर कोई नई innovation की है या कोई artistic काम किया है, तो उसे कमर्शलाइज करने से पहले आप उसके ऊपर अपना एक ओनरशिप कॉन्सेप्ट अगर देना चाहते हैं that this particular thing is belongs to you, so that will lead to the intellectual property right. So under intellectual property law, owners are guaranteed a certain exclusive right to a variety of intangible assets. So yes, it's have an intangible process or intangible assets with it, and the type we already discussed, that yes, copyright is one method, have a trademark in your practices is the one method, patent and trade secret is the one. So yes, this is all about for the today's session. So here we were winding up. So thank you so much. IGNOU Moocs.